Hi, Mick McQuaid here to review the syllabus for iste432. And let's just get right to it. I'll just cover my smiling face with it. Database application development. And this is a draft of today. And, well, as I'm saying this anyway, this is the most current version as I'm recording this, but the most current version, in fact, the official version at any time during the semester is the copy on my courses. That's what to pay attention to. Okay, now presumably you have taken 330 or an equivalent, and you have competency in at least one application programming language, such as Java, C#, or others. I don't really care which language you have proficiency in, and you will have some flexibility about languages in this class. There are some specific tools that you'll use for certain exercises, but for your project, you'll have quite a bit of latitude about what programming language. But essentially, this is about database application development. So when I speak of an application programming language, I'm not talking about SQL. So I'm talking about taking advantage of what you learned in 330 to connect programming languages to a database, and then doing a project based on that. And I also don't want you to just do your old 330 project in this class. Okay, so here are the details about the class, the time, place, dates, the final exam time. This is an important date. You can't just get out of this. You can't just say, well, I didn't take it early because I've been planning to go to this wedding I had plane tickets for a million years. No, can't do it. Cannot do it. Okay, this is me. Here's my email address, but you really need to know my non-RIT email address, which is mickmcquaid@gmail.com, because we'll be using Google Drive, and although students get official Google Drive accounts, faculty do not. So I'll be using my personal Gmail address for you to share documents with me on Google Drive. That's mickmcquaid@gmail.com. Okay, so here's more or less the course description. The idea is that there are issues in developing database-oriented applications, issues that you can't learn simply by learning, for instance, how to speak SQL. There will be plenty of readings. There's no official textbook for the course, but there are lots of things to use. Let me emphasize, let me highlight this one caveat here, that the student may not simply blame the software, nor may the student expect the instructor to troubleshoot whatever software you're using. So you have a lot of flexibility here, but it can get you into trouble. Using that flexibility can get you into trouble, and you can't simply excuse your way out of it. There's no textbook for the course, but there are plenty of ways to get text. I'll put stuff on our My Courses site, which you see here. But then also you can go to the library, and for example, for PostgreSQL, if you just go to library.rit.edu, and you're faced with this big orange box, and you just type PostgreSQL in it, and you press the search button, you'll see that there are plenty of full-text books that you can read online on the subject of PostgreSQL, and that's also the case for pretty much any topic in the class. And then I will expect you to also use these other resources, such as Wikipedia. I assume that Wikipedia has a reputation for not being reliable, so some teachers will advise you not to use it, and instead I want you to use it, and I want you to educate yourself about its reliability problems. So for example, a couple of weeks ago, there was this big expose about the covert world of people trying to edit Wikipedia for pay. So this article came out on August 11th, quite recent article, although it chronicles a story that started in 2013 when this doctor, this physician, discovered that a bunch of jerks who were trying to sell his hospital a lot of useless equipment to do stuff that I can't pronounce were editing Wikipedia pages to make it look like this stuff was effective. So, and Medicare paid about $1 billion for this stuff, and people who were authorizing these payments were looking at Wikipedia for the definitions, and the definition said, "Hey, this is great," despite the fact that there is no medical evidence that this is great. So this is just one of many examples. I think I mentioned Congress here also. Yeah, if you Google Wikipedia and Congress, you'll find that there are plenty of cases of politicians editing Wikipedia for their benefit. And what you have to do is educate yourself about this, not simply avoid Wikipedia. And the same thing is true of Stack Overflow. So I see people using Stack Overflow in an artless manner. So some teachers will tell you not to use Stack Overflow. So what I see is some students actually cutting and pasting not only code, but all of the stuff that was on the page around the code so that the code doesn't compile because it's got 5 Azure myths debunked next to it. So you have to gain skill in using Stack Overflow. You have to not do what some of the outrageous things that I've seen. You have to use Hacker News. Very important to use Hacker News. In fact, the new hotness on Hacker News is PostgreSQL. So almost every day you will find information that's relevant specifically relevant to this course. Okay, enough of that. Back to the syllabus itself. So there is software for the course. So you will have to use a database management system, or DBMS. You'll have to use a scripting language. You'll have to use an application language. You'll have to use some shell utilities, and you'll have to use a text editor. There will be at least 3 DBMS products in here: MySQL or MySQL, PostgreSQL, and SQLite 3, as well as some open source application software. And you can certainly use other DBMS packages at the discretion of the instructor. What I find often is that students want to use DBMS packages or other packages with which they turn out not to be able to do the job, and then they want me to solve their problems in these other packages. And in fact, this has resulted in some changes in the syllabus of this class. These events have. Okay, and so I would like you to program in at least a little bit in JavaScript. You can certainly use other scripting languages, and by scripting language, I'm talking about like Python, Perl, PHP, basically anything that starts with a P. In fact, I don't know why JavaScript doesn't start with a P, because other scripting languages do. And you need one application language. This is Java, C#, whatever. But we're not going to teach any application language. You're welcome to use other ones. However, you will not be allowed. So there are lots of proprietary tools that have a thing called lock-in. So what they do is they make it really easy for you to do things if you do things using their other proprietary products. And I probably should have put up some costs of MCSE, annual costs for you to get your MCSE, for you to understand something about the results of lock-in. So you better not be doing lock-in type stuff. I want you to actually learn generically how this stuff is done, and then if you want to pay $1 cadillion to have it done for you, that's fine. Yeah, so there are problems. There will be grading issues where you can get a score of 0, which is an incredibly low grade. I usually give some points if people just tried, but here's a case where you could just try, but then also get a 0. So that's a real drag. So, and then there are a bunch of shell utilities, and these include utilities that you may know collectively as GNU Core Utils. That's a package of a bunch of utilities, of venerable utilities that have been put together. And you'll have to use a text editor. I'm going to demonstrate Vim. I've become frustrated by the lack of knowledge that students have about their favorite text editor. Students can't do basic tasks with their favorite text editor, and they wind up wasting a lot of time. You will find professionally that a great deal of your reward structure is predicated around you being able to complete assignments quickly. And so whatever text editor you want to use, you've got to use enough of it so that you can complete assignments quickly. I use Vim all the time, so I can do it with that. I can't do it with some of the other popular text editors that you use. But I know that the other popular text editors have essentially these same features. So I'll demonstrate it, and you'll actually have to use it for one exercise, and you will not be able to use another one unless you actually use the comparable features of it. So no Pico. Okay, so here's our schedule. This is a topic schedule, and these weeks correspond to the weeks of the semester. So the final the final week of the semester, I think, is the middle of week 16 or something like that, and week 17 is our final exam period. Here's our grading scale, and here's a grading schedule. So this is the standard grading scale for this school, and the grading schedule, you can see that there are some weeks where there's no graded work due, but there is some graded work due pretty much almost all the time except Thanksgiving week. Wow, it seems like an awful lot of work in this class. And it's 40% project milestone, 35% exams, and 25% in-class exercises. Okay, we have a bunch of policies that are school-wide, and depending on whether this is your first course of the semester, you may have had as many as 3 other opportunities to look through this in other courses, so I don't want to beat you over the head with it too much, but I do want to make sure that you understand that you are bound by these policies and that you cannot protest later. I mean, you can protest all you want, but that, I'm not going to pay attention. You can protest that you didn't read, that you didn't go to all these URLs here. You can claim that this stuff is not clear, but that's just too bad. I mean, I did fail one student on the academic dishonesty policy, and he wasted several weeks claiming he was going to get a lawyer and saying that this wording isn't legit or something like that. And he's not in GCCIS anymore. Makes me very sad. And I'm serious about that. I mean, I don't want to have to invoke this kind of policy. And if I do, as I did 2 semesters ago, I had to spend a lot of time following up and verifying with other faculty members so that by the time that I accused him of cheating, I had an ironclad case, and he should have guessed that and responded differently from the way he did. I think he made a huge mistake, and now he's gone. Okay, so you have to abide by all these policies, even though I'm not going to go over them. You have to know what the deadlines are. You have to do your stuff on time. You get a 0 if you don't do stuff on time. You can challenge your grade for 1 semester. No late work. There's no extra credit. If you have a notice of accommodation, there are other people who have notices of accommodation, and there are finite resources on campus that have to be scheduled for people who have notices of accommodation. So this isn't simply my whim, and I'm not the only one who's affected by this. We need to know right away so that all the various people that are working in the background that you don't necessarily know about can make their plans. Okay, so enough of the syllabus. So just to reward you for having paid attention to this long, let me show you a hilarious little video. And the point of this is that I want you to work in an unstructured environment. I want you to be able to do stuff. Oh, here's my face again. I want you to be able to follow vague instructions. I want you to complete assignments without a lot of checklists. A person who follows a lot of checklists has very little latitude. A person who follows a lot of very basic instructions to the letter doesn't get paid much, doesn't get much job satisfaction. And here is such a person. Let me just show you this person here. This is check-in at a hospital. So this is a person who's checking in patients here at the hospital.
Hi, I was in an army experiment, and I'm not feeling so
She's
well.
not really involved in her
I think it might have been
job.
the drugs they had me on. been hallucinating.
And
My
here's the
head
menu
is
of choices
just
she
killing
has of
me.
things to do.
My joints are all
She doesn't even
achy,
have to
and
be able to read and write.
is this a hospital or? I don't even know where I am.
Please proceed to the
She
diagnostic
didn't even
area
have to
on
say
the right,
anything.
and have a healthy day.
Oh, thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So this is what you're going to be prepared for if you learn how to follow a lot of explicit, specific instructions. So that's not what I want you to do. I want you to learn how to operate in a more vague environment, not one perhaps as dangerous as this one. So here's one of the most so here is one of the occupations that faces things that are totally unstructured, like this escape pod's parachute deployed accidentally. It's this big orange and white thing here. And so this astronaut can't even escape from this space station that's falling apart until she can unhook all the parachute cords from the escape pod while debris is flying at her at 1,000 miles per hour. And when she gets into the escape pod, all the instructions, there will be instructions, but they're all in Russian, and she's American. And her plan is to, after, assuming she can even get into the pod, she's planning to fly to a Chinese space station, which may have an escape pod that has a working parachute, and all instructions in Chinese that she won't understand, and try to just figure out some way to get back to Earth. So that's her job, and that's the most extreme kind of unstructured job I can imagine. And of course, I don't want you to die in space. I want you to think in terms of a spectrum ranging from the most structured job imaginable, okay, at one end of the spectrum, the most structured job, the least pay, the least discretion. Actually, astronauts don't get paid a lot, but they get fame. So that's for a lot of people probably better than pay. And well, assuming that they do get back alive. So at the other end of the spectrum, you have the most unstructured possible job, and you have to find your place on that spectrum. And as seniors, you are moving, and at least half of you have been listed as seniors on my records. You're expected to move into a less structured environment. You're expected to start doing things with less structure, doing things on your own, following very sparse instructions, and adding a great deal of value yourself. And so I'm looking forward to you doing that in this class. I'm looking forward to you taking a lot of responsibility in this class and being very active in learning how to do things and picking up on things from each other, as well as from the environment, from the web environment that I've discussed during this video. Okay, thanks for your attention, and see you in class.